Minho Kim stepped off the transport shuttle and immediately felt different. The station's artificial gravity pulled at him in a way that felt just slightly wrong. Not uncomfortable, just different from Earth. He adjusted the collar of his uniform and looked around the docking bay with wide eyes. Galactic Council Station Epsilon 7 was enormous. The ceiling stretched so high above that Minho could barely see it. Lights of every color moved along the walls like living things. And everywhere he looked, there were aliens. Real aliens. Minho had seen videos during his training, of course. Everyone on Earth had watched the broadcasts when first contact happened 3 years ago. But seeing aliens in person was completely different. His heart raced as he watched them move past him. A creature that looked like a floating jellyfish drifted by, its tentacles barely touching the ground. Something with 6 legs and crystal skin walked on the ceiling above him. A being made entirely of what looked like golden smoke flowed past, and Minho felt warmth as it passed. "Ensign Kim?" A voice spoke in perfect English, though it had a strange echo to it. Minho turned and froze. Standing before him was his assigned partner, Ambassador Kriva of the Velthron species. He had seen her picture, but it hadn't prepared him for the reality. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with skin that looked like it was made of pale blue crystal. Her upper body was humanoid enough, with 2 arms and a head, though her face had no nose and her eyes were large and completely silver. But her lower body was what made Minho stare. Where legs should be, there was nothing solid. Instead, swirling, columns of blue and white energy held her above the ground. The energy moved constantly like a slow-motion tornado, and she floated about 6 inches off the floor. "Ensign Kim?" Kriva repeated. "Are you well?" Minho snapped his attention back to her face. "Yes. Sorry, Ambassador. I'm fine. Just adjusting." Kriva tilted her head in a gesture that seemed almost human. "This is your first time off Earth, yes?" "Yes, ma'am." Minho straightened his posture. Yes, Ambassador." "You may call me Kriva." She turned, her energy columns rotating smoothly to change her direction. "Come, I will show you to your quarters. We have much work to prepare before the council session tomorrow." Minho followed her through the station corridors. His footsteps echoed on the metal floor with each step. Tap, tap, tap. Meanwhile, Kriva moved in complete silence, gliding above the ground like a ghost. Other beings passed them in the hallways. Minho tried not to stare, but it was impossible. Every species moved differently. Some walked on legs like him. Others flew, floated, or slithered. One creature seemed to teleport short distances, blinking in and out of existence. But Minho's eyes kept drifting back to Kriva's energy columns. How did they work? What kept her up? Did it take effort, or was it as natural as breathing? "You are staring again," Kriva said without turning around. Minho felt his face grow hot. "I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude. What is it about my lower structure that interests you so much?" There was no anger in her voice, only curiosity. Minho struggled to find words. "I've never seen anything like it. How does it work?" Kriva stopped and turned to face him fully. Her silver eyes studied him for a long moment. "It is magnetic levitation, combined with energy field manipulation. All Velthrons are born with this ability. It is as natural to us as your legs are to you." She said the word legs like it was something strange. "Does it take energy?" Minho asked. Does it tire you out?" "Of course it takes energy. All movement requires energy." Kriva paused. "Do your legs not tire you?" "Well, yes, but only if I walk a long distance or stand for many hours." Kriva's head tilted again. "Interesting. Come, we should continue." They walked, or rather, Minho walked and Kriva floated, through more corridors until they reached a door that slid open at their approach. Inside was a small apartment with 2 rooms. "This is your quarters," Kriva explained. "Mine are next door. We will be working closely together over the coming months. Humanity is new to the Galactic Council. and there is much you do not understand about our ways. I'll do my best to learn quickly, Minho promised. I am certain you will. Kriva moved toward the door, then paused. Ensign Kim, may I ask you something? Of course. Your legs, they simply stand there? Even when you are not moving, they hold you up with no visible energy expenditure? Minho looked down at his own legs as if seeing them for the first time. Yes, I mean they get tired eventually, but mostly they just work. Kriva's eyes seemed to glow a bit brighter. Fascinating. This seems very efficient. She turned to leave. Rest well, Ensign. Tomorrow will be a long day. After she left, Minho sat on the bed and pulled off his boots. His feet ached a little from the different gravity, but nothing serious. He thought about Kriva's question. Did his legs really just stand there? He'd never thought about it before. Walking was as natural as breathing. But maybe to someone who floated their whole life, legs were as strange as her energy columns were to him. The next morning, Minho met Kriva outside the council chambers. She was speaking with another Velthran, and Minho noticed both of them glancing at his legs several times during their conversation. When the other Velthran left, Kriva approached Minho. I apologize if we made you uncomfortable. My colleague was curious about human physiology. It's okay, Minho said. I was staring at you yesterday, so it's fair. Kriva made a sound that might have been a laugh. Perhaps we are both curious creatures. The council chamber doors opened and they entered together. The room was circular and massive, with platforms at different heights for different species. Some platforms were in water, some in the air, some on the ground. The human delegation sat on a ground-level platform. Ambassador Daeho Choi, the head of the delegation, nodded at Minho. Next to him sat Dr. Jiwon Park, the team's chief scientist, and several others. As the session began, Minho noticed something. The Velthran platforms were all elevated, allowing them to float at their preferred height. But several times during the long meeting, he saw Velthran delegates dimming slightly, their energy columns flickering. Meanwhile, the human delegates simply sat in their chairs, or stood when speaking, with no visible strain. During a break, Kriva approached Minho again. Her energy columns seemed less bright than before. Are you all right? Minho asked. I am well. Merely conserving energy. These sessions are long. She looked at him, then at his legs. You show no signs of fatigue. I'm a bit tired, Minho admitted, but sitting helps. Sitting. Kriva repeated the word slowly. You simply rest your weight on the chair. Yes. She was quiet for a moment. Your species is very strange, Ensign Kim. Minho smiled. From where I'm standing, Ambassador, you're the strange one. Kriva's eyes brightened and Minho was sure this time that she was laughing. 3 weeks had passed since Minho arrived at the station. He was getting used to the strange sights and sounds of the Galactic Council. He could now identify most of the major species by sight, and he'd learned the basic diplomatic protocols, but he still couldn't stop being fascinated by how everyone moved. Today, he sat in the station's observation lounge with Dr. Jiwon Park. The doctor was reviewing data on her tablet while Minho stared out the window at the stars. You're thinking about legs again, aren't you? Jiwon said without looking up. Minho turned to her, surprised. How did you know? Jiwon smiled. She was in her 40s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. You get this look on your face, like you're trying to solve a puzzle. She put down her tablet. What is it this time? I was watching the different species move through the station, Minho explained. And I realized something. Almost none of them walk like we do. You're right. Jiwon leaned back in her chair. I've been studying that, actually. It's quite interesting. Really? Jiwon pulled up files on her tablet and turned it so Minho could see. Look at this. I've been collecting data on every species in the council. Out of 47 member species, only 5 have what we would call legs in the traditional sense. Minho leaned forward. Only 5? Yes, and out of those 5, only 2 are bipedal like us. The others have 4 or 6 legs. Jiwon scrolled through images. Most species either fly, levitate like the Velthrons, slither, or evolved on low-gravity worlds where walking isn't necessary. Why is that? Jiwon pulled up an image of Earth next to images of other planets. Gravity. Earth has higher gravity than most inhabited worlds, much higher. Our planet has 1.0 g, which we use as the standard measurement. But look at these, she pointed to the data. The Velthran homeworld had 0.6 g. The Thexian homeworld had 0.4 g. In fact, most of the Council species came from worlds with gravity between 0.3 and 0.7 g. So our planet is heavier? Minho asked. Exactly, which means our ancestors had to adapt to that weight. They evolved strong legs that could support their body weight, walk long distances, and even run. Jiwon's eyes lit up with excitement. Minho, do you know what humans are really good at? What? Endurance? Humans are persistence hunters. Our ancestors would chase prey for hours, sometimes days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. We didn't need to be faster. We just needed to never stop. Minho thought about this. That's kind of scary when you say it like that. It is, isn't it? Jiwon laughed. But it's also amazing. Our legs evolved to carry us forever. Most species here can't understand that concept. As if summoned by their conversation, Kriva entered the lounge. Her energy columns glowed bright blue today. She nodded to both of them. Dr. Park, Ensign Kim, may I join you? Of course, Jiwon said, gesturing to a seat. Kriva positioned herself near the chair but didn't sit. She couldn't really. Instead, she lowered her floating height until she was at eye level with them. I have been meaning to speak with you, Dr. Park, Kriva said. I have questions about human physiology. I'd be happy to answer, Jiwon replied. The human leg structure. It bears your entire body weight constantly, yes? That's right. And this does not require conscious thought or energy manipulation? Jiwon shook her head. No, it's automatic. Our muscles, bones, and tendons work together naturally. We don't think about standing any more than we think about breathing. Kriva's eyes dimmed slightly, which Minho had learned meant she was thinking deeply. This is very different from Velthran physiology. We must constantly maintain our energy fields. It becomes automatic with practice, yes, but it always requires some energy. How much energy? Jiwon asked, her scientist curiosity clear. Enough that we must rest every few hours, especially in higher gravity environments. Kriva looked at Minho. You have been standing for the past 20 minutes. Do you need to rest? Minho looked down at his legs, suddenly aware of them. No, I'm fine. I could stand for a few more hours if I needed to. Remarkable. Kriva turned back to Jiwon. And walking? How long can humans walk without rest? Jiwon smiled. That depends on the human and the terrain. But a healthy adult could walk for 8 to 10 hours with short breaks. Some can go even longer. Kriva's entire body seemed to brighten with surprise. That seems impossible. It's true, Minho added. Back on Earth, people hike for entire days. There are these things called marathons where people run for hours. Run? Kriva's voice had a strange tone. You can maintain that speed for hours? Well, not everyone, Minho admitted. But trained runners can. Before Kriva could respond, the station's alarm system activated. A loud sound echoed through the lounge and red lights began flashing. Emergency drill, Jiwon said, standing up. We should head to our stations. They moved toward the exit, joining the flow of various species heading to their emergency positions. The station ran these drills weekly to prepare for possible disasters. Minho followed the crowd, with Kriva floating beside him. Then something changed. The gravity shifted. It was subtle at first, just a slight increase in weight. But it kept growing. Minho felt himself getting heavier. His footsteps became harder. Around him, other species began to struggle. A flying species dropped to the ground with a cry. Several slithering creatures slowed to a crawl. And the Velthrans. The Velthrans were in trouble. Kriva's energy columns flickered. She dropped several inches, struggling to maintain her height. All around them, Velthrans were sinking toward the ground, their levitation failing under the increased gravity. Are you okay? Minho asked, reaching out to steady Kriva. The gravity, it's at 1.2 g now. I cannot. Her voice strained with effort. Meanwhile, Minho adjusted his stance. The increased gravity made him feel heavier, like he was wearing a heavy backpack, but he could handle it. His legs simply adapted. He looked around and saw the other human delegates doing the same. Ambassador Deho walked with a slightly heavier step but showed no real distress. Jiwon moved carefully but confidently. The gravity shifted again, this time dropping to 0.5 g. Minho felt light, almost bouncy. Around him, some species sighed with relief, but others, used to the lower gravity, suddenly struggled with the change. The Velthrons recovered, their energy columns brightening again. But they looked exhausted. Then the gravity shifted again. 0.8 g, then 1.0 g, then 1.3 g. Each change brought new challenges for different species, but the humans simply adjusted. When gravity increased, they walked more carefully, knees bent slightly to absorb the weight. When it decreased, they shortened their steps to maintain control. Minho noticed Kriva watching him. Even as she struggled with the changing gravity, her silver eyes tracked his every movement. Finally, the drill ended. The gravity returned to the station's normal 0.8 g. Various species collapsed in relief. Medical teams rushed to help those who had been injured or overwhelmed. Kriva slowly lowered herself to the ground, her energy columns fading until she sat on the floor, exhausted. Minho had never seen a Velthron actually touch the ground before. "Are you all right?" he asked, kneeling beside her. "I will recover." She looked up at him. You barely noticed the changes, I noticed," Minho said. "But legs are good at adjusting to different gravity. The bones and muscles just work with whatever weight they feel." Jiwan approached them, slightly out of breath but otherwise fine. That was intense. They've never varied the gravity that much in a drill before. "It was a test," Kriva said quietly. She looked at both humans. "The Council is testing all species' adaptability. There is something they are not telling us. Something that requires adaptability to gravity changes." Minho and Jiwan exchanged glances. "What aren't they telling us?" Minho asked. Kriva tried to stand but couldn't lift herself yet. Her energy reserves were too depleted. "I do not know, but I believe we will find out soon." She looked at Minho's legs again. "And I believe your species may be more important to the Council than anyone realized." The emergency call came at 0300 station time. Minho woke to his communicator buzzing urgently. He grabbed it, still half asleep. "Ensign Kim, report to Emergency Briefing Room 7 immediately." Ambassador Daeho's voice was tense. Minho dressed quickly and ran through the empty corridors. His footsteps echoed in the silence. When he reached the briefing room, he found the entire human delegation already there, along with several council members including Kriva. "What's happening?" Minho asked. Daeho pointed to a holographic display floating in the center of the room. It showed a planet with red warnings flashing around it. "Mining colony on Torvin 9, Daeho explained. Catastrophic equipment failure. 300 workers trapped underground. The planet's magnetic storms are preventing safe landing for rescue ships." Minho studied the display. "What's the gravity like?" 14 g, Jiwan answered. She looked tired but alert. "Higher than Earth." A council member stepped forward. It was Threxen, an insectoid species with multiple legs and a hard shell. His translator box made his clicking sounds into words. "Most species cannot function at 1.4 g for extended periods," Threxen said. "We have sent drones, but they cannot navigate the underground tunnels where the miners are trapped. We need living beings who can think and adapt. But no one can work in that gravity," another council member added. This one was Velthron, older than Kriva based on the deeper blue of their crystalline skin. "We can," Daeho said simply. The room went quiet. Threxen's compound eyes fixed on the human ambassador. "You believe humans can function at 1.4 g? Earth is 1.0 g, Jiwan said. "We've trained at 1.2 g in preparation for various scenarios. 1.4 g will be challenging but manageable for short periods." "How short?" the older Velthron asked. Jiwan calculated on her tablet. "The rescue operation should take 8 to 12 hours based on the drone scans. Our people can handle that." Kriva moved forward, her energy columns glowing brightly. "I request to join the mission." Every being in the room turned to stare at her. "Ambassador Kriva," the older Velthron said sharply. "That is impossible. No Velthron can maintain levitation at 1.4 g for more than a few minutes." "I am aware," Kriva replied calmly. "But I am the liaison to the human delegation. If they are going, I should be there." "You'll die," Threxen said bluntly. "Perhaps. But someone from the council should witness what humans are capable of." Kriva looked at Minho. "I believe it will be educational." Daeho considered for a moment. "If Ambassador Kriva wishes to come, we'll do everything we can to keep her safe." 2 hours later, They were on a shuttle heading to Torvin 9. The team consisted of Minho, Sergeant Yun Lee from the Human Security Detail, Corporal Soyeon Nam from Engineering, Dr. Ji-won Park, and Kriva Hyun was a big man, heavily muscled with a calm demeanor that made everyone feel safer. Soyeon was smaller but tough, with quick hands and a sharp mind for solving problems. Landing in 5 minutes, the pilot announced. Brace for heavy gravity. Minho felt the change as soon as they entered Torvin 9's atmosphere. His body grew heavier. His arms felt like they were made of lead. Breathing became harder. Beside him, Kriva's energy columns flickered and dimmed. She dropped lower, struggling to maintain even a few inches of height. "Are you okay?" Minho asked. "Functioning," Kriva managed to say. But her voice was strained. The shuttle landed roughly. The cargo door opened and Minho stood up. Or tried to. His legs shook under the increased weight. It felt like someone had strapped 50 pounds to every part of his body, but his legs held. He took one step, then another. Heavy, slow, but functional. Hyun stood next, grunting with effort. Then Soyeon. Both looked strained but determined. Kriva tried to stand and immediately collapsed. Her energy columns failed completely and she fell to the floor. Minho rushed to her side. "Kriva!" "I cannot." "The gravity." Her voice was weak. Ji-won checked her with a medical scanner. "Her energy reserves are depleting too fast trying to fight the gravity. She can't maintain levitation here." "We should send her back," Soyeon said. "No." Kriva's eyes glowed brighter with determination. "I came to witness." "I will witness." Hyun looked at Minho, then at Kriva. The big sergeant sighed. "Well, we can't leave her here." He bent down and carefully lifted Kriva in his arms. "Guess I'm carrying you, Ambassador." "This is not necessary," Kriva protested weakly. "It is if you want to come," Hyun replied. His legs trembled slightly under the combined weight of Kriva and the heavy gravity, but he stood firm. They moved out of the shuttle and onto Torvin 9's surface. The planet was rocky and hostile. Sharp stones covered the ground. The air was thin but breathable. In the distance, they could see the entrance to the mining tunnels. 2 kilometers to the tunnel entrance, Ji-won said, checking her scanner. 2 kilometers, in 1.4 g gravity, carrying Kriva. They began walking. Every step was a challenge. Minho's legs burned with effort. His lungs worked overtime to pull in enough of the thin air. Beside him, Soyeon walked with gritted teeth, her face red with strain. But they kept moving. 1 step. Then another. Then another. Kriva watched Minho's face as he walked. She saw the strain there, the effort each step required. But she also saw the determination. The refusal to stop. "How are you doing this?" she asked quietly. "Legs," Minho panted. "Built for this evolution, high-gravity world. We adapted." 30 minutes later, they were halfway to the tunnel. Hyun's arms shook from holding Kriva, but he hadn't complained once. Sweat poured down his face. "Sergeant, let me carry her for a while," Minho offered. "I'm good," Hyun replied, but his voice was tight. "We should take turns," Soyeon suggested. "Share the weight." They stopped for a moment. Minho carefully took Kriva from Hyun. The ambassador was surprisingly light, her crystalline body not as heavy as it looked. But in 1.4 g, everything was heavy. Minho's legs almost buckled when he started walking again, but they held. They always held. "I am sorry," Kriva whispered. "I am a burden." "No," Minho said between breaths. "You're a friend, friends. Help each other." They reached the tunnel entrance after an hour of walking. Everyone was exhausted, but they had made it. Inside the tunnel, the gravity was the same, but at least they were out of the harsh wind. The ceiling was low, forcing them to bend slightly. This made the gravity feel even worse. They found the first group of trapped miners 300 meters in. 5 beings of different species huddled together, too weak to move in the heavy gravity. "We need to get them out," Ji-won said, "but they can't walk." "We carry them," Hyun said simply, and they did. One by one, they carried the miners back to the entrance, then returned for more. Each trip was agony. Each step was a battle against gravity and exhaustion. Kriva watched it all. She saw humans push beyond what should be possible. She saw Minho collapse twice from exhaustion, only to stand up again and keep going. She saw Soyeon carry a miner twice her size through sheer willpower. After 8 hours, they had rescued all 300 miners. The humans were barely able to stand. Their legs shook. Their muscles screamed. But they had done it. On the shuttle ride back, with gravity returning to normal, Kriva looked at Minho. He was asleep, his body finally getting the rest it desperately needed. She looked at his legs. Those simple mechanical legs that had carried him through hell. Remarkable, she whispered. Absolutely remarkable. Jiwan, sitting nearby, smiled weakly. That's humanity for you. We don't know when to quit. No, Kriva said softly. You know exactly when to quit. You simply choose not to. Kriva spent 3 days in the medical bay recovering from the Torvin 9 mission. The extreme gravity had depleted her energy reserves so completely that her body had essentially shut down. The doctor said she was lucky to be alive. But during those 3 days, she had time to think and to research. When she was finally released, she went straight to the Galactic Archive. It was a massive library containing the collected knowledge of 47 civilizations. Information on billions of species, planets, and historical events. She needed to understand humans, really understand them. Kriva started with Earth itself. The data showed a planet with 1.0 g gravity, which the archive noted as unusually high for a life-bearing world. Most civilizations evolved on planets between 0.3 and 0.7 g. She read about Earth's atmosphere, its weather patterns, its dangerous predators. The archive had flagged Earth as a Class 4 hazard world, just below the most dangerous classification. Then she found the files on human evolution. Her eyes widened as she read. Humans descended from persistence hunters. Their ancestors would chase prey for hours, sometimes entire days, until the animal collapsed from heat exhaustion. The prey was faster, but humans just kept coming, never stopping, never giving up. They hunted by walking, Kriva whispered to herself. They literally walked their prey to death. She found videos that human scientists had uploaded to the archive. One showed a human hunter in Earth's ancient past, jogging after an antelope under the hot sun. The antelope would sprint away, then stop to rest. The human would catch up. The antelope would run again. The human would follow. This continued for 8 hours until the antelope could no longer run. It simply lay down, defeated by exhaustion. The human walked up to it and ended its suffering quickly. Kriva felt a chill run through her crystalline body. What kind of species hunts like that? What kind of evolution creates a being that wins by simply refusing to stop? She dug deeper into the files. Human bones were dense, built to support heavy weight. Human muscles were designed for endurance, not burst speed. Human sweat glands allowed them to cool their bodies even while moving, something most species couldn't do. Humans were built to move, constantly, endlessly. The archive had a comparison function. Kriva pulled up data on Velthrans next to data on humans. Velthrans could levitate for about 4 hours before needing rest. Humans could walk for 8 to 10 hours. Some could go even longer. Velthrans moved at a maximum speed of about 10 kilometers per hour for short bursts. Humans could maintain a running pace of 15 kilometers per hour for over an hour. Their top speed was slower than many species, but they could maintain moderate speed almost indefinitely. We're not the same, Kriva realized. We're not even close. She saved all the data to a personal file and left the archive. She needed to share this with the council. But when she tried to schedule a council meeting, she was told that Threxin had already called one. And the topic was humanity. The council chamber was full when Kriva arrived. All 47 member species had representatives present. The human delegation sat in their section, looking confused and slightly worried. Threxin stood at the central podium, his insectoid body clicking as he moved. Honored council members, Threxin began, we have witnessed something unprecedented. The human delegation successfully completed a rescue mission that should have been impossible. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Torvin 9 has 1.4 g gravity, Threxin continued. No council species can function there for extended periods. Yet humans worked for 8 hours in those conditions. They carried injured beings through kilometers of rough terrain. They did not fail. They did not quit. An older Velthran council member Vexra spoke up. This is concerning. Humans are stronger than we anticipated. Stronger? Ambassador Daiho stood up in the human section. We're not stronger. We're adapted to high gravity. That's all. That's all. Vexra's energy columns pulsed with agitation. You make it sound simple. But this adaptation makes you superior to most species in physical tasks. Different, not superior, Jiwan said, standing next to Daiho. Every species has advantages. Flying species can reach places we can't. Species with better eyes can see things we can't. We just happen to be good at walking. Threxon's translator clicked rapidly. Good at walking? What an interesting way to describe endurance that exceeds all known species. He turned to address the full council. I propose a formal evaluation. If humans claim their abilities are normal, they should prove it. Minho felt his stomach tighten. He didn't like where this was going. What kind of evaluation? Daiho asked carefully. Threxon pulled up a holographic image. It showed a planet covered in dense jungle and high mountains. Kesara-Fo, a Class 5 hazard world. 1.6 G gravity. Hostile wildlife. Extreme weather. The council attempted to survey this planet 15 years ago. We lost the entire team. The ship crashed and we could never recover it. You want us to go there? Daiho's voice was hard. The ship contained valuable survey data about Kesara-4 and the surrounding sector. Data we need for expansion planning. Threxon's eyes fixed on the human delegation. If humans are as capable as they appear, they should be able to retrieve it. That's insane, Jiwan said. You're asking us to go to a death world to prove a point. I am asking you to prove your worth to the council, Threxon replied. Or admit that the Torvin 9 rescue was a lucky accident. Kriva stood up, her energy columns bright with anger. This is a test designed to fail. You want them to die to prove they're mortal. I want them to show us what they can really do, Threxon said. Without filters. Without excuses. The council erupted in argument. Some supported Threxon. Others thought it was too dangerous. The chamber filled with the sounds of dozens of languages being translated simultaneously. Daiho held up his hand. The human delegation gathered close, speaking in low voices. Minho watched his ambassador's face. Daiho looked tired, frustrated, but also thoughtful. After several minutes, Daiho turned back to the council. The chamber quieted. We'll do it, Daiho said. Ambassador, no, Kriva said. This is a death sentence. Maybe. Daiho looked at Threxon. But if we refuse, the council will always doubt us. They'll always wonder if we're a threat or a weakness. Better to show them now what humanity can do. How many will go? Threxon asked. 3 volunteers, Daiho replied. That should be enough. Minho stood up before he could think about it. I'll go. Ensign Kim, you don't have to, Daiho said. I know. But I want to. Minho looked around the council chamber. I want them to see what we can do. Hyun stood next. I'm in. Someone needs to keep the kid alive. Finally, Soyeon stood. Engineering expertise will be needed to access the crashed ship's data. I'm the best choice. Daiho looked at his 3 volunteers and nodded slowly. Very well. He turned to Threxon. 3 humans will retrieve your data. But when they succeed, the council acknowledges humanity's value. Agreed? Threxon was silent for a moment. Agreed, when they succeed. If they succeed. Kriva moved closer to Minho as the council session ended. Her eyes were dim with worry. This is madness, she said quietly. Probably, Minho agreed. But it's also an opportunity. An opportunity to die. Minho looked at his legs, then back at Kriva. You've spent days researching humans, haven't you? I can tell. Kriva's eyes brightened slightly with surprise. How did you know? Because I'd do the same thing. You wanted to understand us, Minho smiled. So you know what we're capable of. You've seen the data. I have. And it terrifies me. Why? Kriva was quiet for a long moment. Because your species wins by enduring, by outlasting, by simply refusing to fall down. Her energy columns pulsed slowly.
And I have seen what that looks like in practice.
On Torvin 9, I watched you collapse and stand up again. I watched you carry others when you could barely carry yourself. And? Minho asked. And I realized that humans don't know when to quit because quitting isn't in your nature. It's not in your evolution. You're built to keep going. Kriva's eyes met his, which means you'll go to Kesara-Fu, and you'll face horrors that would kill any other species. And you'll keep walking. That's the plan, Minho said. I know, Kriva replied. That's what terrifies me. The shuttle dropped them at the edge of Kesara-Fu's northern continent. The pilot couldn't get any closer because of the violent magnetic storms that covered most of the planet. Good luck, the pilot said. I'll be in orbit. Call when you need pickup. Minho caught the hesitation. If, not when. The pilot didn't think they'd survive. The shuttle lifted off, leaving Minho, Hyun, and Soyeon alone on a hostile world. The gravity hit immediately. 1.6 G, heavier than Torvin 9. Minho felt his knees buckle, but he caught himself. Beside him, Hyun grunted and Soyeon gasped as the weight settled on them. Status check, Hyun said, his voice strained. Functional, Minho replied. His legs shook, but they held. Same, Soyeon added. She adjusted her equipment pack, redistributing the weight. But this is going to be brutal. The crashed survey ship was 40 kilometers away according to their scanners. 40 kilometers through jungle over mountains in 1.6 G gravity. They started walking. The jungle was dense and hostile. Plants with thorns blocked their path. The air was thick and humid, making it hard to breathe. Strange sounds echoed around them. Clicks, howls, and scraping noises. Every step was a battle. Minho's legs burned within the first kilometer. His lungs worked overtime, trying to pull in enough oxygen from the heavy air. Sweat poured down his face, but he kept walking. They all did. After 2 hours, they stopped to rest. Minho's muscles screamed as he sat down on a fallen log. The simple act of sitting felt like heaven. Water, Hyun said, passing around their supplies. Minho drank gratefully. His hands shook from exhaustion. 20 kilometers to go. At this rate, we'll reach the ship in 8 to 10 hours, Soyeon calculated. She looked at her scanner. But there's a problem. What? Hyun asked. Soyeon showed them the display. The terrain gets worse. Mountains. The ship crashed in a valley on the other side of a mountain range. Minho looked at the data. The mountain was steep and rocky. In 1.6 G gravity, climbing it would be almost impossible. We'll manage, Hyun said. The big sergeant stood up, wincing. Come on! Sitting too long makes it harder to start again. They continued through the jungle. Hours passed. The landscape slowly changed from dense vegetation to rocky terrain. The mountain loomed ahead of them. Then they encountered their first predator. It burst from the undergrowth without warning. A creature about the size of a large dog with 6 legs and a mouth full of sharp teeth. It moved fast despite the heavy gravity, clearly adapted to this world. Hyun reacted instantly. He pulled out his sidearm and fired. The stun blast hit the creature and it collapsed. More coming, Soyeon warned, checking her scanner. 3. No, 5 signatures. Approaching fast and we can't fight them all, Minho said. Run! They ran! Or tried to. In 1.6 G gravity, running was agony. Each step slammed down hard. Their legs absorbed impacts that felt like hammer blows. Their lungs burned. But humans were built to run. Not fast, but long. The creatures chased them for nearly a kilometer before giving up. They weren't built for endurance. The humans were. When they finally stopped, all 3 collapsed. Minho's vision blurred from exhaustion. His legs felt like jelly. That was fun, Soyeon gasped between breaths. Your definition of fun? Needs work, Hyun replied. They rested for 10 minutes, then forced themselves up. The mountain was close now. Starting the climb was the worst moment of the entire mission. Minho's legs barely responded to his commands. He had to focus on each step, each movement. Climb. Grab a rock. Pull up, move your foot. Climb again. The 1.6 G gravity made everything harder. Each pull-up required strength he didn't know he had. Each step up felt like he was lifting twice his body weight. Soyeon climbed beside him, her face set with determination. Hyun was above them, testing handholds and finding the safest path. Hours passed. The climb was endless. Minho's hands bled from gripping sharp rocks. His legs shook constantly now, barely able to support him. He wanted to stop. His body screamed at him to stop, but he didn't. One more handhold. One more step. One more meter. That was all that mattered. Just the next step. Halfway up the mountain, Soyeon slipped. Her hand lost its grip on a wet rock and she fell. Minho grabbed her without thinking. His other hand clung to a rock while his arm caught Soyeon's weight. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he held on. I've got you, he said through gritted teeth. Hyun climbed down quickly and helped pull Soyeon to a stable position. Thanks, she whispered. That's what legs are for, Minho replied, standing when others fall. They reached the summit as the planet's sun was setting. The valley on the other side was dark and mysterious, and there, barely visible, was the crashed survey ship. 10 more kilometers, Soyeon said. Downhill. Downhill in 1.6 G was almost as bad as uphill. They had to control their descent carefully. One wrong step could send them tumbling down the mountain. It took 3 more hours to reach the valley floor. When they finally stood before the crashed ship, it was full night. Their lights illuminated the wreckage. The ship was half buried in mud and covered with vines. It had been here for 15 years, slowly being consumed by the planet. The data core should be in the central compartment, Soyeon said. She pulled out her tools. Give me 30 minutes. While Soyeon worked, Minho and Hyun stood guard. The jungle around them was alive with sounds. Things moved in the darkness just beyond their lights. Minho's legs trembled constantly now. He'd been on his feet for nearly 20 hours in heavy gravity. His body was shutting down, but he stayed standing. How are you doing this? Hyun asked quietly. The big sergeant looked exhausted but curious. Doing what? Still standing. We should be collapsed by now. Dead, probably. Minho thought about it. We're human. Standing is what we do, Hyun laughed, a tired sound. That's the stupidest and most perfect answer I've ever heard. Soyeon emerged from the ship carrying a data core. Got it, the information is intact. Then let's get out of here, Hyun said. They began the long walk back. The return journey was harder because they were already exhausted. But they had no choice. They had to keep moving. Minho entered a strange state during that walk. His body moved automatically, one foot in front of the other. His mind drifted, almost dreamlike. He thought about Kriva, about Earth, about evolution and gravity and legs. His legs kept moving even when his mind wandered. Dawn came as they were crossing back over the mountain. The sun rose over Kasara 4, painting the hostile jungle in shades of red and gold. Beautiful, Soyeon whispered. Deadly, Hyun corrected. But yeah, beautiful. They reached the pickup point after 32 hours of constant movement. 32 hours in 1.6 G gravity. 32 hours of walking, climbing, running, and surviving. The shuttle descended through the magnetic storms. The pilot's voice came over their communicators, shocked and relieved. I can't believe you made it. Humans are full of surprises, Hyun replied. When they boarded the shuttle, Minho finally allowed himself to collapse. His legs gave out and he fell to the floor. He couldn't move, couldn't speak, but he was alive. They all were. As the shuttle left Kasara 4's atmosphere, Minho looked out the window at the hostile planet below. They had survived a death world. They had walked 40 kilometers in extreme gravity, climbed a mountain, fought predators, and retrieved the data. They had done the impossible, and they had done it by walking. The Galactic Council chamber was silent as the data core from Kasara 4 was analyzed. Every council member watched the holographic display, waiting. Threxen stood at the central podium, his insectoid body still. When the analysis completed, his translator clicked rapidly. The data is authentic, he announced. Complete survey information for the Kasara system and surrounding sectors. 15 years of lost information recovered. The chamber remained quiet. Threxen turned to face the human delegation. For a long moment, he simply stared at them. Then he spoke. I was wrong. I designed that mission to prove humans were ordinary. Instead, you proved you are extraordinary. Minho, still recovering in a medical support chair, nodded slightly. His legs were wrapped in healing bandages, but the doctors said he would recover fully. Beside him, Hyun and Soyeon sat in similar chairs. They had pushed their bodies beyond normal limits, but they had survived. The Council owes humanity an apology, Threxen continued, and my gratitude. The data you recovered will help us expand safely into new territories. Ambassador Daeho stood. We don't need apologies. We need understanding. Humans are different, yes, but different doesn't mean threatening. An older council member, a floating gas being named Ethra, spoke up. The question remains, what do we do with this information? Humans can survive where we cannot, access places we cannot reach. This changes everything. It doesn't have to change anything, Jiwon said, standing next to Daeho. Unless you want it to. Explain, Ethra requested. Jiwon pulled up new data on the holographic display. It showed the crashed ship on Kasara 4 in detail. This data contains more than survey information, Jiwon said. It contains geological data, mineral deposits, and biological samples. All things the Council has wanted for 15 years. She changed the display to show other planets. There are 43 planets in Council space classified as too dangerous for normal exploration. High-gravity worlds, hostile environments, places where most species simply cannot survive long enough to gather data. Jiwon looked around the chamber. Humans can go to those places. We can be your explorers, your pathfinders, not because we're better, but because we're adapted for it. Kriva's energy columns brightened as she understood. You're offering a partnership. Exactly, Deho confirmed. Humans explore the dangerous places. We gather data, survey territories, rescue people from high-gravity disasters. In exchange, we gain full council membership and access to council technology and knowledge. Threxen clicked thoughtfully. This would solve many problems. But it also raises questions. What stops humans from keeping the information they gather? From using these worlds for themselves? The same thing that stops any council member from doing that, Minho said, surprising himself by speaking. Trust and mutual benefit. All eyes turned to him. He continued, his voice stronger. We could have kept the data from Kasara for. We could have claimed it was destroyed. But we didn't. We brought it back because that was our mission. He paused. Humans don't want to dominate. We want to explore, to learn, to help. Pretty words, Vexra, the old Velthran said. But words are easy. Then test us, Hyun said. The big sergeant leaned forward in his chair. Give us a mission. A real one. Let us prove ourselves not as soldiers or test subjects, but as partners. The council murmured among themselves. Different species spoke in different languages, the translators creating a symphony of sound. Finally, Ethra spoke. There may be such an opportunity. The holographic display changed. It showed a planet covered in swirling colors, reds, purples, and golds mixing in beautiful patterns. This is Vextar Prime, Ethra explained. Homeworld of the Vex people, an ancient civilization, possibly the oldest in the galaxy. Minho recognized the name from his studies. The Vex had been mentioned in the archives as the Architects, the mysterious species who had seeded technology throughout the galaxy before vanishing thousands of years ago. We thought they were extinct, Kriva whispered. We believed so too, Ethra confirmed. But the data from Kasara 4 contains references to ruins. Vex ruins in a location we've never been able to access. The display zoomed to show a massive canyon network, deep winding passages that seemed to go on forever. The Vex Canyon Complex, Ethra continued, located in a region with 1.8 G gravity. The Council has sent expeditions before. None survived more than a few hours. You want us to explore it, Soyeon said. We want a joint expedition, Ethra corrected. Humans provide the physical capability to navigate the terrain. Council scientists provide the expertise to analyze what you find. Kriva's energy columns pulsed rapidly. I volunteer to lead the Council science team. Ambassador Kriva, you cannot function in 1.8 G gravity, Vexra said. No, Kriva agreed. But I have learned that there are other ways to contribute. I can coordinate, analyze, and support from a mobile base and... She looked at Minho. I trust the humans to go where I cannot. Minho felt warmth at her words. They had come a long way from those first awkward meetings where she questioned his staring at her legs. Deho considered the proposal. This would be a true partnership. Not a test or a challenge. Correct, Ethra confirmed. The Vex were the precursors to much of our technology. Understanding their civilization could advance the entire Council centuries forward. This is important to all of us, then we accept, Deho said, on one condition. Name it. After this mission, humanity is granted full Council membership. No more probationary status, no more tests. We become equals. The Council chamber erupted in discussion. Species argued for and against the proposal. Translators worked overtime to keep up with the multiple conversations. Threxen raised a manipulator appendage for silence. I support this condition. Humans have proven themselves. Let us make it official. One by one, other Council members agreed. Some reluctantly, some enthusiastically, but they agreed. Finally, Ethra spoke. The Council accepts your condition. Complete the Vex expedition successfully, and humanity joins the Council as full members. Deho bowed slightly. Then let's begin preparations. The next week was a flurry of activity. Jiwon assembled a team of human explorers and scientists. Kriva coordinated with Council researchers from a dozen different species. Equipment was gathered, plans were made, and training was conducted. Minho recovered from his injuries faster than expected. The medical staff was amazed at human healing capabilities. Within 5 days, he was back on his feet, ready for the next mission. Your legs are remarkable, his Veltran doctor said. The muscle damage from Kasara fur would have been permanent in most species. But your body simply repaired itself. Humans are built to recover, Minho replied. We break down and build back stronger. It's how we evolved. On the 6th day, Kriva found Minho in the training facility. He was running on a treadmill set to 1.5G gravity simulation, preparing his legs for the upcoming mission. "You're pushing yourself hard," she observed. Minho slowed the treadmill. "The Vex Canyon is 1.8G. I need to be ready. You nearly died on Kasara for—" "Nearly," Minho agreed. "But I didn't. And now I know what 1.6G feels like. I can prepare better." Kriva's energy columns dimmed slightly. "I have been studying human psychology. There is a term, post-traumatic growth, the idea that surviving difficulty makes you stronger." "That's us," Minho said. "We break, we learn, we adapt." "It terrifies other species," Kriva admitted. "The idea that adversity makes you stronger rather than weaker." Minho stepped off the treadmill and grabbed a towel. "Does it terrify you?" Kriva was quiet for a moment. "No, not anymore. Now it inspires me." "How so?" "Because you have shown me that limitations are not permanent. That what seems impossible can become possible." Her eyes glowed brighter. "You asked why I stared at your legs back when we first met. Now I understand. I was seeing something I thought impossible. Biological structures that work effortlessly, that need no constant energy, that simply function. And now?" Minho asked. "Now I see them as symbols. Symbols of persistence, of endurance, of refusing to quit." Kriva's energy columns pulsed slowly. "I cannot change my biology. I will never have legs like yours. But I can learn from what they represent." Minho smiled. "We're going to make a good team, Kriva." "Yes," she agreed. "I believe we will." The expedition to Vexitar Prime was scheduled to launch in 3 days. It would be the largest joint council human operation ever attempted. And if successful, it would change everything. Minho looked at his legs, at the muscles that had carried him through impossible challenges. They were just legs, simple biological structures, but they had become something more. They had become humanity's bridge to the stars. The expedition ship approached Vexitar Prime slowly, carefully. The planet was beautiful from orbit, with swirling clouds of purple and gold covering most of its surface. But beneath that beauty was 1.8G of crushing gravity. Minho stood in the observation deck with the rest of the human exploration team. Besides him, Hyun, and Soyeon, there were 3 others. Corporal Juno Park, a medic with steady hands and a calm voice. Lieutenant Hana Shin, a geologist who specialized in extreme environments. And Private Taeyango, the youngest of the group at 22, but with endurance test scores that exceeded everyone else. "Landing in 30 minutes, the pilot announced. Kriva floated into the observation deck, her energy columns glowing bright blue. Behind her came Dr. Jiwon Park and a team of council scientists from various species. "The mobile base is ready," Kriva reported. "We'll set up at the canyon's edge. From there, we can monitor your progress and analyze samples in real time." "How far down does the canyon go?" Hana asked, studying the geological data on her tablet. "We're not sure," Jiwon replied. "Previous expeditions only made it a few hundred meters before the gravity became too much. But the sensor readings suggest the ruins go down at least 5 kilometers. 5 kilometers, Taeyang whispered. In 1.8G gravity. "We don't have to do it all at once," Hyun said. The big sergeant checked his equipment one last time. "We'll go down in stages. Rest when needed. Take our time. Time is something we have," Kriva agreed. "This is not a race. This is exploration." The ship landed on a plateau near the canyon's edge. The moment the cargo doors opened, everyone felt the gravity. Minho's knees buckled slightly before he caught himself. 1.8G was heavier than anything he'd experienced before. His arms felt like lead weights. His chest compressed under the pressure, making breathing difficult. But his legs held. The human team walked out of the ship slowly, carefully. Each step required conscious effort. Behind them, the council scientists remained on the ship, unable to function in the extreme gravity. Only Kriva attempted to leave the ship. Her energy columns flickered and dimmed immediately. She dropped like a stone, unable to maintain any levitation at all. Minho caught her before she hit the ground. Even through his exhaustion, he managed to hold her. "I'm sorry," Kriva said. "I wanted to see it in person." "You will," Minho promised. "We'll bring cameras. You'll see everything we see." They carefully carried Kriva back to the ship. Then the human team approached the canyon edge. It was magnificent. The canyon stretched before them like a wound in the planet's surface. Steep walls of red and purple stone descended into darkness, and carved into those walls, visible even from the surface, were structures, buildings, roads, bridges connecting different levels. An entire city built into the canyon walls. The Vex civilization, Hana breathed. It's intact. Let's get closer, Hyun said. They began their descent. A narrow path had been carved into the canyon wall, probably by previous expeditions. The path was steep and treacherous, made worse by the heavy gravity. Minho focused on each step. 1 foot, then the other. Don't think about the 5 kilometers ahead. Just think about the next step. His muscles burned. His lungs worked overtime. Sweat poured down his face despite the cooling systems in his suit, but he kept moving. They all did. After 2 hours, they reached the first level of ruins. The carved structures were incredible. Buildings that seemed to grow out of the stone itself, with architecture unlike anything in the Council's records. These are definitely Vex. Jiwon's voice came through their communicators from the mobile base above. The style matches fragments we've found on other worlds, but this is the first complete city we've ever seen. Hana collected samples while Taeyang set up scanning equipment. Junho monitored everyone's vital signs, making sure nobody was pushing too hard. Heart rates are elevated but stable, Junho reported. We can continue. They descended to the 2nd level, then the 3rd. Each level revealed more wonders. Libraries carved into stone, laboratories with equipment that still looked functional after thousands of years, art that depicted the Vex people, tall, bipedal beings with 4 arms and elongated heads. They were like us, Soyeon realized. They walked on legs. Yes, Jiwon confirmed from above. The gravity readings from ancient Vextar Prime show it was a high-gravity world even back then. The Vex evolved in conditions similar to Earth. That's why they built down instead of up, Hana said, examining the structures. In high gravity, it's easier to descend than to climb. They built their civilization into the canyon because that's where they could go. Minho understood. The Vex had been like humans, bound by gravity, forced to adapt, building their civilization 1 step at a time. They descended further. The 4th level. The 5th. Each level was harder than the last. The gravity seemed to press down more heavily the deeper they went, though Minho knew that was just exhaustion making it feel worse. On the 7th level, they found something extraordinary, a massive door, sealed shut with writing carved across its surface. The writing glowed faintly as if it still had power after all these years. We found something, Hyun reported to the base. A sealed chamber with active power signatures. There was excitement in Kriva's voice when she responded. Can you open it? Soyeon examined the door. The locking mechanism is sophisticated, but I think I can... She worked carefully, her tools interfacing with the ancient technology. Got it. The door slid open with a sound like thunder. Beyond it was a chamber filled with devices that glowed with soft light. And in the center of the chamber was a pedestal with a crystal floating above it. A data storage device, Jiwon said, awe in her voice. That crystal could contain the entire knowledge of the Vex civilization. Hana approached it carefully. She pulled out a containment unit and gently secured the crystal. Retrieved. Let's head back up. The return journey was brutal. Climbing in 1.8 G gravity was exponentially harder than descending. Each step up required pulling their entire body weight plus equipment, plus the samples they'd gathered. Minho's legs shook constantly. His vision blurred. His body screamed at him to stop, to rest, to give up. But he thought about the Vex. They had lived here in this gravity, their entire civilization. They had walked these paths every day. If they could do it, so could he, 1 step. Then another. Then another. Junho collapsed on the 9th level. His body simply gave out. Hyun and Taeyang carried him between them, each man bearing extra weight on legs that already trembled with exhaustion. Soyeon fell on the 11th level. Minho helped her up, and they leaned on each other, supporting one another as they climbed. It took 8 hours to climb back out of the canyon. 8 hours of pure endurance. When they finally reached the surface, all 6 humans collapsed. The council medical team rushed out to help them. Kriva floated over to Minho, her energy columns bright with worry. Are you alive? She asked. Minho managed a weak smile. We're human. We don't know how to quit. The crystal they retrieved contained more information than anyone had hoped. The entire Vex database, science, art, history, technology, It was the greatest archaeological discovery in galactic history. 3 days later, the Galactic Council held a special session. The human delegation, still recovering but standing, faced the assembled council members. Ithra spoke first. The expedition to Vextar Prime was a complete success. You have given the council a gift beyond measure. It wasn't just us, Deho said. It was a partnership. Council expertise analyzing what we found, human endurance getting us there. Nevertheless, Ithra continued, you have fulfilled your agreement. It is time for the council to fulfill ours. The chamber's lights dimmed. A holographic display appeared showing Earth and the human delegation. By unanimous decision of the Galactic Council, Ithra announced, humanity is granted full council membership, with all rights and responsibilities therein. The chamber erupted in applause, each species showing approval in their own way. Clicks, whistles, flashing lights, and sounds Minho couldn't identify. Threxen approached the human delegation. I misjudged your species. I thought walking on legs was primitive. Now I understand it is evolutionary perfection for exploration and endurance. It's just legs, Minho said. But thank you. Just legs, Kriva repeated, floating beside him. She had heard him say that before. No, Minho, they are so much more than that. After the ceremony, Kriva and Minho stood together in the observation lounge, looking out at the stars. What will you do now? Kriva asked. Now that humanity is a full council member? Keep exploring, Minho replied. We're setting up something called the Pathfinder Corps. Humans who want to explore dangerous worlds, help with rescues, go where others can't. And you'll lead it? Me? No, I'm just an ensign. Minho smiled. But I'll be part of it, walking where others can't, one step at a time. Kriva's energy columns pulsed slowly, contentedly. Do you remember when we first met? When I asked why you kept staring at my legs? I remember. I was insecure, defensive. I thought you were judging me for being different. She paused. But you were just curious, trying to understand. We're all different, Minho said. That's what makes the council work. Different species, different abilities, different perspectives. Yes, and humans bring something unique. Not just physical endurance, but mental endurance.